I was basically sending a lot of bands that I liked artwork for free, and I would just say like, hey, I enjoy your sound, I love your music. Here's some art. If you want to use it, go right ahead. I can send you high-res files. Foster people went on tour with Maroon 5, and that's how I ended
that's
up
how
doing
you met the
overexposed art. I just shedded a lot of the people that I was kind of, I wouldn't say imitating, but taking too many hints from.
Hi, Sidem. I'm here with Young and Sick. So you were born in kind of like a small town in Holland, right?
Yeah, tiny town. Everyone knew everybody. Farms and churches, and pretty much that's it.
Were your parents born there as well?
They're from like towns near that. Not particularly the one where I grew up, but yeah, it's all like a very small part of the Netherlands.
Are they creative people as well?
Creative for sure, but mostly just big fans of music and art and kind of thing.
Your dad has like a huge like record collection, right?
Yeah, he has an insane obsession with vinyl, and that rubbed off on all three of his sons. Yeah.
What do they do?
I have a brother who's a free spirit, if we call it that, roaming Europe. I think he's in the Netherlands right now, but you can never really tell where he's going to end up. And one of them, Jeroen, is in Berlin. He owns a bar there.
Oh.
So I go to visit him.
Yeah. What about your parents?
They work. My mom works in a translation office where she does accounting, and my dad works in a car factory where he's like a manager. But he used to be the forklift driver there, so it's like a self-made man kind of thing.
How do you describe yourself back then, growing up there?
Out of place, I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be out of where I was growing up. It was about, it being a very small town, and it being such a, there was not much to do there, so we started playing bands, and always had like dreams of making it outside of that town, outside of that comfort zone, I guess.
What kind of music did the band sound like that you were in before? You're like 14, 15, right, back then?
Yeah, we sounded terrible. all the bands. No, some of it was okay, but it was mostly just like punk and hardcore, and I think that was mostly what the people around my area were playing, so it's kind of what we all kind of fell into.
Oh, yeah.
And I mostly just played guitar and did some backing vocals sometimes, but mostly just guitar. I stay as far back on stage as possible.
Yeah. How did you like have that personality that you wanted to like leave that place? Was it like you were watching a lot of TV that inspired you to like travel more, or like what about it of your personality made you want to like there's so much more out there?
I think knowing that all the music was happening in places like London, New York, LA, Chicago, cities like that, made me want to see those and figure them out. And the closest we would go is to go to like Berlin or Paris, and already get kind of introduced to such a much bigger world and just a more inspiring place. So I guess it was just easy to want to go there, and then I realized that doing retail jobs, I could do them either where I was growing up, or I could do them in a big city.
Where did you find the early art that you were inspired by?
I think like album art and like the bottoms of skateboards was like the earliest introduction to illustrations and kind of the kind of world. So just record covers, album covers, and skateboards. I think was the first time I realized like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I started copying that the album covers, and I was a big Nirvana fan, so I was drawing Nirvana everywhere, and like stars I think for most people.
At that point, what were the artists that really caught your attention?
I mean, growing up in kind of the early end of the 90s, I just got really into grunge when I was a kid, and my dad really liked it too. So we would listen to a lot of the old grunge bands like
that's a
Chains
cool dad.
and Nirvana, that kind of thing. So, and they always had really good art, so I was always diving into that.
Was art like your favorite subjects in school, like always, or were you into other subjects?
I mean, they may have taught me art, but I was never paying any attention anywhere in school, so I don't know if I had like favorite subjects. My favorite subjects was looking out the window and drawing on things in front of me, not necessarily what someone was saying. Now I think I'm much more open to learning, but back then I was a terrible, terrible student. I think most people end up in like a creative environment, I guess.
And then when you were 17, you went to, was it art school or?
Well, I went to design school for a few years, and it didn't quite work out. I spent most of the time just working on my own stuff and really trying to make my own style where the people, like the teachers at school, were trying to teach you to be really broad and not narrow down on one style because they want you to get ready for maybe like an advertising agency. And I didn't want to do that anyway, so I was mostly just working on my own thing and just drawing. So I didn't quite make it there. So.
Actually, why did you decide to go to like graphic school in general if you didn't really like school?
I mean, I still wanted to get a diploma of some sort, which I didn't do, but you know, you still have to make some sort of decision, or you have to just go straight to work, and or you don't have to, but I mean, that's kind of the usual way of doing things. But yeah, I guess it was the least, I was like the most interesting of all the things. But and I met a lot of really good people that were making art and that I became friends with, and it was a really good environment to learn off your peers and the people that are doing the same thing as you. But it wasn't necessarily like, it was a nice sheltered environment to be able to make a lot of art, you know.
And then were you working in some like car, like manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a car factory, I worked in a lot of retail, and then I moved to London doing pretty much the same. I realized I can just do these terrible jobs in a different city that's way more inspiring. So yeah, I did a lot of retail.
What about London attracted you initially?
I started talking to a manager that was kind of introducing me to the producers and people to write with and inspiring environments, and he told me to just give it a try, and he was definitely initially the person that pushed me over to do that in a way. And yeah, so I think that, but also I always loved London. I went as a kid and I thought it was an incredible place.
When you quit school, where was your career at by that point?
Nowhere. Just you know, initial ideas and getting your own style. But it takes so many years. So it was somewhere in that middle of still figuring out who I was.
How old were you when you met like Mark Foster?
Probably like 18. Yeah, that's when we first started talking.
How did you meet him?
He saw some of the art that I was doing for kind of like more indie groups from around the California area. I was basically sending a lot of bands that I liked artwork for free, and I would just say like, hey, I enjoy your sound, I love your music. Here's some art. If you want to use it, go right ahead. I can send you high-res files if you want to print them on anything. And he saw some of that work and liked it, and it was the MySpace era, so he wanted some skins for MySpace. So I started doing that, and then we just always started working together on everything, whether it was record releases or merch or stages, that kind of thing.
And how did you even think of like getting your foot in the door by sending these bands your pics? Is this something that you learned online, or you just figured out yourself?
I had one really good teacher going to this art school, and he was actually the only person that allowed me to just do my own thing and actually encouraged getting your own style and like that kind of thing. And he kind of like pushed me once to just make a fictitious album cover for someone you like and see if they enjoy it. And I started doing that, and I never stopped doing it, even though that was like a singular assignment. I just kept doing it. Every time I made a drawing, I stuck a band logo underneath it or above it or inside of it, and then just sent it to those people just to see if it worked. And it worked for a lot of people that I really enjoyed their music.
What was the collaboration like with like Foster the People? Was it kind of, how does it work? Were you like pitching ideas, or did they come to you with an idea?
Well, for Torches, for the first record, it was very much Mark just gave me a bunch of music and told me this is the record, and the drawing that it ended up being is actually the first thing I sent, but him and the band, they were mostly just like, they wanted to see a lot of different options, and we made 30 different things or 40 things, whatever, like a lot, and then they came back and they said like, we loved the first one.
Yeah.
And and then it was easy because now we had a style, and then every song was just easy to put into that thing. With the second record, it was a bit more involved because Mark spent a bunch of time in New York with me, where I was living in Brooklyn, and just sat with me, and we just really talked, because it was a bit more of an elaborate idea, I guess, the art. So we sat together for a couple of nights and just made the art together.
And then were you going by your name, Young and Sick, at that point?
Yeah, I've had that name for a really long time.
How did you think of that name?
My manager Aaron and I, he was living in New Orleans and I was living in London, and he was putting on a lot of parties in New Orleans, just kind of like for a lot of the students that went to Tulane, and every month or every couple of weeks that we did it, we'd come up with a name for the party. make a poster, and then he would take it away from there. And one month I came up with Young and Sick. I don't even know why. It was just like one of those just little ideas, I guess.
Yeah.
And we did and the party went really well. And then I kept looking at that name, and I thought it's just such a simple, recognizable name. Like, well, why hasn't anybody used this yet?
Yeah.
And the .com was free, the Instagram was free, that kind of thing. So we just stuck with it.
And then what happened after the Foster the People? Like, what was the next milestone after that?
Well, Foster People went on tour with Maroon 5, and that's how I ended
that's
up
how
doing
you met okay.
Overexposed art. That was definitely like a big deal, and it definitely, helped a lot. But I mean, also just putting out a record, putting out EPs, like every time something like that happens feels like a milestone of sorts. Whatever happens to it, the fact that it's out there is really satisfying.
How did the Skrillex come about?
Well, I met him a couple of years ago when I was working here with a singer that he knew, and we just like kind of became friends through that. And I've been friends with a lot of the people that he works with on his team, and so it's kind of like the little family that he surrounds himself with. They're just really lovely people. He's a very lovely guy, so he's always been in my corner, helping me with things. And sometimes he wants art, sometimes he's just being nice.
What was the decision like earlier on to be more of like a mysterious figure, like not really showing your face or stuff like that?
I mean, it was less about not wanting to show my face and more about that I didn't find it necessary. I wasn't trying to be super mysterious. I think that was going around a lot, and I think that was really cool. Like The Weeknd did a very good job at that, and it worked very well. But for me, it was more that I wanted to just have the art be the art, and I don't do particularly well on cameras.
Oh no, you're great.
I don't mind, but I'm just not very good at it. But and so it was just nice to not have to do that, and no one was asking me to. So the music spoke for itself, and the art spoke for itself, and that kind of worked out that way.
After London, did you move straight here, or what happened after that?
Yeah, I moved to LA, and just kind of had to dip in and out of the country a couple of times because I was on like a tourist visa, and I was trying to figure out if this was if America was where I wanted to live, and then started figuring it out, and I realized yes, like it's an amazing place, and LA felt like home, and got the right visa, and I've been here for I don't know 7 years maybe now, 6 or 7 years, and I love it. I was in New York for 2 of those years, but yeah, I'm back here, and I'm really enjoying it.
Do you think the way you create art has changed in every single city that you've lived in?
Yeah. Like location is such a big influence. It can be anything from just the way you commute to, something silly like the weather. But yeah, it definitely changes the flow. It definitely changes the way you do things. Yeah.
How do you say living in LA kind of changed or developed your style?
I think it comes out a lot in the production and the chords. I think, like the recent singles I've put out, a few people have actually remarked that it sounds like it was made in California, which makes sense. Like it just seeps in, and I think you even play different music during the day. Like I feel like I play different music here than when I'm listening to someone's record than I do in New York. I think the New York music I listen to might be a little harder and louder and heavier sometimes than my LA playlists.
What was the main inspiration for your EP, like The Road?
Well, it's all kind of part of a bigger narrative. Like the record that I'm working on, those songs are on that record, and they're tying in with that whole story. And it's kind of just I've been doing this for a long time, and it's been going great. And the fact that I can still do it is incredible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come without self-doubt and without just how do you keep going sometimes in music and in art. It's just like you're never sure what happens. You're never sure if people are still listening, are still watching, and that's fine, but so I just kind of made a record about not giving up on that and just like keeping going, and I really enjoy where this record is going, and it's the thing I've definitely been the most proud of anything I've ever made. So I'm really stoked. Like, yeah, the EP is just it's a part of that bigger story, but those songs are just about it's almost like a love story about making a record.
I like
guess.
that. Yeah. Actually, going off that, what kind of themes do you try to present in your art?
I mean, it kind of in the drawings, it can definitely go a lot more all over the place because it's, you know, spur of the moment. Sometimes they're made in 20 minutes, sometimes they're made in 4 hours. It depends. But with the music, like the themes are they're pretty close and smaller. Like the whole record is a very introspective love story about making a record. But then my drawings can be about the news, or it can be about something that happened today or tomorrow, or it can have much bigger themes, I guess.
How did the collab with Urban Outfitters come about?
I mean, they mostly have just been kind of helping a lot by, you know, enjoying some of my drawings, and they've mostly been pushing. We haven't started doing like a full-on collaboration with them. I think that might happen in the future, but mostly they've just been like praising my work a bunch.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, and I can't thank them enough for it.
And the like Buku Festival, I think how do you say it?
Yeah.
Did they reach out to you, or?
Well, they're people we go way back with, and this is the 4th year I'm doing it.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a festival that happens every year on the Mississippi in New Orleans, and it's kind of for a lot of the people that go to colleges there and then university go to this place. It's a mixture of like electronic music and urban, and it's a beautiful site. Like at the backdrop is an old factory and an old freight train, and on the other side is the Mississippi. And so it's just a really nice area for people to go enjoy those types of music, and I've been doing the branding for it for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It's just super fun, and it's nice to be able to go to New Orleans every year and see everything printed out and see all the kids, you know, in top to bottom gear that I drew.
Yeah.
So it's humbling. It's cool.
Is the way you approach like commercial art and your personal art, is it different?
I don't know. I don't think so, especially because mostly when people ask me to do things, they don't really have too big of like they don't really have restrictions or things that too much of a brief, because they know who they're asking, and I guess a lot of times I just get to do me.
Yeah.
So I think I get to just
that.
I don't have to change too much. I'm rarely censored or changed too much. So it's not
That's
that hard.
really cool.
It's lucky for sure.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I'm gonna go a bit lower. The bucket.
Can put them up.
How did that come about?
They've been like friendly with us for a while now, and we wanted to do something with them for a long time, and recently they've kind of changed up the way they print and like the way they put stuff out. So it was a lot easier for me to make a lot more than one type of shoe, and to just give them new designs every now and then. So it was like the right time to do it, and I love them.
Yeah.
They're very comfy, and it's nice to have like 5 different pairs of shoes that I can match with whatever kimono I'm wearing.
And you do something with Pringles?
That was like a kind of like a one-off. They did a project together with Fergie, and she enjoyed the stuff that I do, so she kind of requested that I was a part of that, and it just like redesigned the can, and it's kind of like a one-off thing that they did.
What about Joshua Tree has like a special part of you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like myself enjoy that place. It's quite magical. It's I don't know, whoever has not been yet, it's definitely a must.
I need to go.
It's not that far, you know, it's like a maybe 2.5 hour drive outside of LA, and then you get to a campsite called Jumbo Rock, and it's just super quiet and beautiful, and I've been there for New Year's a few times, and it's just amazing to be at a place where there's no countdown. Like it's midnight, and it's crickets. And it's kind of amazing.
That sounds nice.
Instead of trying to find a crowded party and loud things, you know, it's a very magical place. You will always see incredible animals, and the plant life there is stunning. It's a really cool place, really magical. And the towns around it have really nice like venues and good food, and yeah.
How do you say your art has changed since the early, like way back when you started making art?
I mean, I think everyone goes through this. I think the first things you make, the first years that you make things, you you take a lot of inspiration from you take a lot of inspiration from the people that you love, you know, your influences, and I think you slowly throughout the years you kind of disconnect from those things and become yourself a bit more. So I think between the early years and now, I just shedded a lot of the people that I was kind of, I wouldn't say imitating, but taking too many hints from.
Actually, what was the turning point when you realized that you wanted to kind of stop doing that?
I mean, I think you always realize it, but it's hard to do when the first years that you make music. I think you're just kind of doing a lot of things that you enjoy, but it's not you yet. And I think a lot of those times you, it's hard to explain, but I think you're just slowly realizing that you're doing it, and then I think it's easier to quit because you see that you chose that style of drumming or that style of guitar playing or anything because you look up to this particular person. And when you see that, you might be able to find different ways around it. And my voice has changed a lot over the years in my guitar playing and my production. So I think you slowly just get a little bit better.
How do you think you've grown as a person?
Whew, that's a big one. I mean, it's incredible to work in the field that I work in because it just shows you a lot of the world, and you get to see through such a weird lens. I think so. It shaped me completely for sure. Sometimes I wonder how much of me isn't making art and music. I think it's like kind of an overwhelming amount of me is like doing those things. So it has shaped me so much to the point to where I am constantly making things. I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not, I guess.
What would you say have been your biggest challenges so far?
I guess it's kind of the same thing as what the record is about. It's just like doing this for so long and hanging in there the whole time. And I think everyone that I work with and everyone that I know in the music industry, they have kind of the same feeling about it. It's just, you know, it takes a long time to put music out, and then, but I mean, I'm not, you know, moaning about it. I love it. I mean, it's incredible the way it's been going, and it's been, you know, the new stuff is getting picked up quite well, and so, yeah, it's just, you know, the challenge is just doing it, I guess.
What does success look like to you?
Releasing records. Like, and if somebody hears it, that's success. If 10 people hear it, that's a big success. If 100 people hear it, that's incredible. Anything apart from that, anything beyond that, I can't hope for or think about because I think it will cloud my judgment into what I do and put out. So, if one person listens and they feel good because I made a song, I mean, that's success. Like,
yeah.
And if it's someone that's not my mom, that's like big success, you know? So, so yeah, I mean, that's all you can hope for. And it's been going a lot better than that, so I'm stoked.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
Wow, that's a good question. I think for making honest art. I think simply that. If somebody can look back at my life and they can pick up a record